Welcome to the channel. In today's video, we will read a story about a woman who divorced her husband, and her mother-in-law didn't approve this, then try to kidnap the woman's baby. In case you haven't seen part 1, I recommend you to watch it in our channel to understand the story. Let's get right into it. Out of the blue, my ex-in-laws showed up in town and wanted to have a serious conversation with me. I didn't want to, but Bill begged me to meet, so we did. We met at the bistro, just the four of us. My ex-mother-in-law immediately started talking, skipping any pleasantries. She apologized to me directly, explaining she was frustrated with my job and urged me to find something else. She didn't want her friends or family knowing her grandson's mother worked at a strip club, calling it sinful. I told her once again I wasn't sleeping with anyone at my job. If it bothered her, I said, she didn't have to talk about me. She started crying and praying right at the table, which was a familiar tactic of hers whenever she wanted to shift the focus or avoid accountability. It was getting on my nerves. Once she calmed down, she suggested that Bill and I should remarry to solve our sins in the eyes of God. She even insisted I quit my job, stop wearing makeup, and change my wardrobe. She even suggested I cut my hair. Absolutely not. It took years to grow my hair this long. I got up to leave, but Bill stopped me, saying he had something to confess. He admitted he'd been seeing someone else behind my back for 4 months. He'd been sleeping with her on his so-called office days and said he wasn't attracted to me anymore because I'd let myself go. He said he didn't want to be a father to my kids anymore and that he wanted to be done with me permanently, though he would still pay alimony and child support. I was stunned. My ex-in-laws were shocked and my mother-in-law cried, while my father-in-law tried to comfort her. Bill, who had once been the perfect gentleman, had become an adulterer and a coward. I felt for my ex-in-laws, but I was too angry to care much. I laughed bitterly at the absurdity of it all. Bill had lied to me, divorced me under false pretenses, and had been seeing someone else right after our youngest son was born. While my ex-in-laws went off on him, I sat in silence. The manager came over to tell us to quiet down. Bill begged for my forgiveness, but I just ordered a cocktail. When it arrived, I threw it in his face and walked out. Afterward, Bill texted me that he'd be sending the kids' belongings and blocked me. My ex-mother-in-law texted to say she wouldn't bother me anymore, heartbroken over her son's actions. I didn't respond. I felt for her, but my focus was on the kids. I had to break the news to Bobby, and I wasn't ready to do that. I picked up my kids and brought them home. Bobby could tell something was off, but I didn't want to talk to him yet. I was crushed about having to tell him he was losing another dad. Bill had done this to us, and I hated him for it. I took a couple of days off work to figure things out, and a friend offered to watch the kids while I worked. I wasn't angry about Bill cheating. I'd known he would at some point. What I couldn't accept was him abandoning the kids. He wasn't the man I married. He was someone else. I didn't know how to deal with my ex-in-laws, but I couldn't cut them out because of Bill's actions. I texted them to say they could come visit the kids after my therapy session. The meeting was awkward, but I laid down some rules. They could see the kids, but there would be boundaries. They couldn't dictate how I lived my life, how I dressed, or force religion on me. My children would choose their own path, and I wasn't open to anyone trying to manipulate me. They weren't happy with my terms, but eventually they agreed, though my ex-mother-in-law cried and prayed, hoping to change my mind. I wasn't having it anymore. She later suggested taking my son to Greece with them for a year. I was floored. Not only was it a ridiculous idea, but it would sever the bond between me and my son. I shut it down immediately, and after some emotional back and forth, she apologized and promised to honor my wishes. We agreed to regular Zoom calls, and I promised to respect their role as grandparents while making it clear that I wasn't going back to their old way of controlling things. A month later, life was looking up. I'd gotten in shape, and I was balancing my job, kids, and pole dancing classes. I was on track to becoming a dancer, but for now, I was still bartending. I'd also started seeing a bouncer from work, Kyle, who was supportive and understanding of my past. Though he posted a picture of us together, I wasn't quite ready to share so much of my life on social media. But the damage was done. Samantha came into work a couple of days ago and informed me that Bill somehow found out about Kyle, and he is really upset and has made threats to come to my job. As mad as I was, I told her I didn't care. She horribly feigned sympathy and wished me luck. I informed my boss and Kyle of what Samantha had said. They assured me they would keep a lookout and not to worry. Last night, during my shift, I was behind the bar serving drinks like usual. Ever since Samantha told me Bill was making threats to come to my job, I had been nervously keeping one eye on the door at all times. Sure enough, he shows up with two of his equally douchey friends. It was almost comical how alike they looked. Slicked back hair, polo tucked into dress pants, blazers, and effing sunglasses at night. I wanted to bury my head on the floor in shame for having seen anything in this manner considered him marriage material. I tried to ignore him and go back to serving drinks. He notices me and makes a beeline for the bar, with Thing 1 and 2 following right behind him. This is when he is intercepted by my boss, Kyle, and one other bouncer, Greg. I couldn't hear the conversation between them over the music playing, but I could tell from their body language that things were getting heated. It began to draw a crowd pretty fast, and before I knew what happened, Kyle grabbed Bill by his jacket and proceeded to usher him out the door, kicking and screaming, while Greg and my boss escorted Thing 1 and 2 out after him. It was pretty anticlimactic, but I am glad no one was hurt. Mostly after work was finished, I asked Kyle what was said. He told me Bill was pissed that I couldn't bother to improve myself during our marriage, and that I had moved on, and he wanted me back. When Kyle established that he was the man in my life, Bill called me a floozy and some other colorful words. That was when Kyle grabbed him up and violently threw him out of the club onto his ass in the parking lot. I'm thankful the situation didn't escalate, and so far, Bill hasn't tried showing up at my apartment. I'm hoping he takes Kyle's warning seriously. I'm happy moving on with my life. All right, and that is the prequel story to the story that we saw in yesterday's video. Now for those of you who didn't get the chance to see yesterday's video, you can just stay on this one, and we'll continue with the story right now. So Bill showed up at my effing job during the biggest event of the year. I am an exotic dancer and bartender at my current job, and I am now in the best shape of my life. And I look damn good compared to when he and I were together. I am dating an amazing guy named Kyle, and my kids are doing great.